Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Story on the Spot. If you came here for Story on the Spot, then you are in the right place. My name is Jim Heskett, and going over there is Mr. Ari McGee. This is the Brute Squad. Down there is Kevin Tomlinson, and directly beneath me is RA's Christmas tree,
where I
who
usually am.
achieved sentience and has decided to join
Right
us.
behind me,
It's me.
sneaking up.
All right, so
I love it.
if you were watching from home, if you're watching live, let us know. Comment, let us know where you're watching from, and don't forget as we go through, comment after every round and tell us who you thought won. So let me explain what we do here. This is Story on the Spot, where I am going to read some story prompts, and then these guys are going to pitch stories, and you watching and listening get to vote on who you think wins each round. And now everyone is doing strange finger things into the camera. I don't.
We're usually doing strange finger things. We just happen to be doing it into the camera today.
Yeah, we just happen to catch it this time.
Mhm.
I can't help it that all the controls are on the same side as the camera, man.
Okay, so let's do this. First of all, we need to discuss who the winner of Lucky Week 13 was, and that was
Was it me?
Craig.
Oh, he's not even here. He can't
Not
win.
even here.
Demand a recount. You know what it is? This guy, he comes in, he's got that smooth voice, right? He's just lulling everybody to sleep. And then he brings the twins in for the cute vote. I can't compete with that.
Yeah.
It's Craig, man.
I can't compete
He nailed it. He's like, this is a classic story.
That's right. And what can you do?
Okay,
Oh, I'm
and
gonna
also
vote for
today we have a bonus word, which we introduced last week. And here's how the bonus word works. The bonus word for today is exuberant, filled with or characterized by lively energy and excitement. So if you can work in the word exuberant or exuberance or exuberantly or any other derivation of the word exuberant into your stories, you get a bonus point. One whole bonus point for working in that word.
All right.
And to kick things off, we are going to start off with no, we're not. Never mind. It's the second story. That is a tease. Coming up will be a bonus round. Here's our first story. This is called Wet Cash. Win Hall of Exeter, Nebraska might have expected to find a few beer cans or old tires at the bottom of his farm pond when he drained it for maintenance, but he discovered something entirely different, an empty, broken ATM. I took a picture and zoomed in on it and thought, that looks like an ATM. When authorities arrived, they had a good idea of the source of the machine since one had been stolen recently, but the numbers didn't match up. Dun, dun, dun. So who would like to be the first to pitch us a story based on this idea of an old ATM appearing at the bottom of a pond on a farm?
I'll go first. Let me jump in. Let me jump in here. Quicks, twins are exuberant. Yes, they are indeed. Okay, so what happened here is that Wen is the new owner of this farmhouse property. He hasn't always lived.
It doesn't
Sorry.
say. Win Hall.
I'm saying that's part of the story.
Oh.
Yes, he is the new owner. Let me put a better inflection on that.
Okay.
He is the new the new owner of this this farmhouse property, and he, when realtors sell homes, they have to have disclosures if anything weird happened inside, like a murder or it was used as a drug den or something like that. And so when his realtor told him that it was the scene of a grisly triple homicide, he just didn't really think much of it. Wen doesn't really care. He's getting his house of his dreams. Who cares, man? There's no blood. They changed the carpet. Everything's fine. So what Wen doesn't know is that the triple homicide was related to 4 partners who had a ring of ripping off ATM machines. They'd hook them up to their truck. They'd pull them out of their standing places, pallet jack them into the back, and then take them back to the farmhouse and crack them open to get at the bounty inside. After the last score, they were all in the farmhouse, and they were drinking a little bit. You know what I mean? They were getting a little excited, a little exuberant about the money that they were going to get out of that ATM machine. And one thing led to another. Some harsh words were exchanged, and the main ringleader ended up killing the rest of his partners. And so, in order to try to cover up his tracks, he ditched the ATM machine into the pond, and that's the reason why the cops thought it was one ATM, but another, because they had been stealing multiple ones. And then he just fled, and no one's seen him since. And so, that's how the ATM machine got in the bottom of the pond with different numbers than the cops expected.
Okay, now there's a Spider-Man is making an appearance inside Kevin's RV.
Kevin, if you didn't have so much crap, you wouldn't have to have 3 storage units.
We're down to 2 now because all that crap's in the van.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, I got something for you, which, I mean, it's pretty obvious. This is a classic time travel story. Basically, Win Hall, an exuberant man, if I've ever seen one. Did I do that right? No? Okay. Win Hall, exuberant, decided one day to drain his swamp. The reason he did that is he's actually a time traveler, and he comes from the future. And in that future, he and his best friend have started a company called Advanced Time Machines Incorporated, ATM for short. And so they've decided that the best way to go back in time without people suspecting anything is to design their time machines to look exactly like ATM machines of the past. So Win Hall and his buddy do this. They take one of the time machines and they go back in time, and they have fun and go on kerfuffles, and they're exuberant about it the whole time because it's fun. And so, did I do that right? And so, see, I wasn't here last week, so I think I was about to practice the word thing. But I'll get there. I'll get there. What they did one time though is went back to the wrong place, and they ended up instead of going back to a city, they got the map twisted around, and they ended up in the middle of nowhere where there happened to be a pond. And so they landed in this pond, and Win was able to get out, but his friend couldn't, and his friend died. And so Win has now been stuck in time trying to figure out how to make it, make sense that there's a time machine down here. And what he ended up doing was waiting and buying the land, getting his friend's body out of the pond, burying him, and waiting for his chance. And now his moment is here, because in a nearby town, an ATM machine was stolen. And he drains the pond, says, "Oh, look, that looks like an ATM machine." And the authorities come out and go, "Sure it is. Wait, the numbers don't match up. Oh, well, this must be the same ATM thief dumping his prize in the pond." Now Win is off the hook for the death of his best friend, and no one will suspect him as the creator of Advanced Time Machines Incorporated. And for that, he is exuberant.
I like Advanced Time Machines. That is nice. Oh, we got
Advanced Time Machines LLC is his competitor. This is Advanced Time Machines Incorporated.
Joan suggested that the audience should submit words for me to select each week. You can submit words. I may or may not select them, but if you want
we used to do this when I worked at a church. We would give the pastor a word that he had to use in his sermon that day. So we'd be like, "You have to say the word moist at some point," and he would try to work. It was really funny.
Yeah, we used to do the same thing when I worked in tech support, to work in a word into a conversation with a customer on the phone. All right, so I believe, Mr. Tomlinson, we still have not heard your pitch.
Okay. All right. What we have here is a classic detective story. A small town detective. He's an apathetic detective, which, as everyone knows, is the opposite of being exuberant. And so he's actually come onto a case where there's a string of thefts of ATMs all over the area. So it's a small town and kind of area. So all these little grocery stores and convenience stores, ATMs are going missing, and he's hot on the trail trying to figure out where all this is going, what's happening with it. And when he gets this call from, the guy's name is Win, right? Win? He gets the call from Win. He goes out and he investigates. Thinks he's on to something and finds out it's not. This is early days in his investigation. Thinks it's the right ATM, but just when he discovers it's not, that's when he discovers his rash of thefts. And so he goes on a journey to discover what's happening with these ATMs and who's responsible for taking them. Fast forward a little, lots of plot points, but what we end up coming up with is our good friend Wynn is actually behind all of the thefts and used the one in his little pond as a red herring to throw off the detective. And he's been siphoning money out of these things and using it for a nefarious plot that he's going to be exuberant about initiating later on.
That he'll reveal in book 2.
We'll do book 2.
We're going to save that for a later book, definitely. Okay, now we're going to have our bonus round, and I have a special new bonus round graphic just for this. We are going to play Boxers Briefs Commando.
Okay.
Here we go. So
I'm impressed with my abs, frankly. I think I've been hitting the gym. I think it's going well.
You might notice mine hangs down a little bit lower than everyone else's too. It's purely accident in Photoshop.
Some guys are showers and some guys are growers. Okay.
Okay, so here's how this works. We have Boxers, Briefs, and Commando. You get to pick one. And you have Indiana Jones, James Bond, and John Wick. Each person is going to pick one underwear choice and one action hero and explain to me why that action hero has that choice of underwear. Who wants to go first to have the most options?
Here's what's funny. My wife is sitting like 3 feet away from me, and she's going to hear me explaining why these 3 gentlemen wear either Boxers, Briefs, or Go Commando.
Well, what you probably should tell her, Kevin, is
to
get on Facebook and watch the damn show live, Kara.
She could get on Facebook and watch it live. That's true.
She could, couldn't she? I believe we are streaming to the Facebook, aren't we?
She doesn't want to, she says.
Oh, okay. She'd rather just hear one side of the conversation. And
no, thank you, she says.
All right, so who's going to go first? Who wants to pick Boxers, Briefs, Commando, and
I got this. You left me with the dregs the last time I was on. So I get to go first this round. Here's the deal. All English people wear briefs. Period. It is known. That's just the way it is. The tidiest tidy-whities you can find go on James Bond. We're done. Commando is John Wick.
No, you only got to pick one because we got to leave.
Oh, okay.
Just pick one from each.
That's fine.
So the rest of us have to explain why the other would wear one of the others.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All right.
I'll go Indiana Jones. He definitely goes Commando. Okay, because have you ever tried
like leather and stuff?
No, dude. Listen, have you ever tried to wear underwear in the jungle? All right, it's no joke, man. You'll get what's affectionately known as jungle rot. All right. And you do not want jungle rot, man. That's serious business, right? The military even tells their guys, look, if you're going to be doing maneuvers in a hot, humid climate, you might need to chuck the chonies. All right. So there's no way that Indiana Jones. Yeah. If you wore underwear, then you know what I'm talking about. Don't be a crazy person.
Now I go Commando in the jungle and on airplanes because I want to prevent jungle rot and coach crotch. So Commando it is.
100%, dude. You know what I'm talking about. It's no joke. It is no joke.
Crotch.
It's deadly. It's deadly even.
So that's why Indy definitely doesn't have any myself down with Flex Seal.
Coach Crotch.
Flex Seal.
I made Jim giggle. That's a new one for me.
That's pretty good.
I need an award for giggling Jim.
I'd never heard of Coach Crotch before. That's pretty.
Well, that's because I just made it up about 30 seconds ago.
That's nice.
No, but it's
well
a real
done,
phenomenon. The words might be new, but it's a real phenomenon.
Sorry, that's what I mean. The nomenclature for what happens to me on an airplane is brand new.
Okay. All right, Kevin, you got to explain to us why John Wick wears boxers.
Why John Wick wears boxers? Because, man, he needs that breathing room. He needs that. He has to make all those moves. So he needs something that's going to move with him and also aerate. So John Wick wears boxers because it allows him to make all those kung fu moves.
So he needs a little more breathing room.
That's true.
So if you're watching,
I wish I could have
ballroom.
I wish I could have stole Nick's because I wanted to say James Bond wears tidy whities because he heard once that it lowers your sperm count. Just hugging the boys, and when you're out there getting it in as much as he is, you don't want any chance of kids running around. So James Bond, that's why he's on the briefs train, I think.
So it's
also
like a birth control method
on his lap.
Huh?
It's also why he uses his laptop on his lap.
100%, dude. 100%.
All right, here we go. Here is our next story. This is called When You Gotta Go.
When you gotta go.
After falling asleep following a 10-bottle beer drinking binge and failing to heed nature's call for 18 hours, a 40-year-old Chinese man identified as Mr. Hu was diagnosed with a burst bladder. The man appeared at a hospital in Zhejiang, China, complaining of searing abdominal pain, and doctors discovered 3 tears in his bladder, one of which had caused his intestines to spill into his bladder. Mr. Hu underwent emergency surgery and was able to recover. Zhuji officials said that while bladder rupture is rare, they see at least one such patient every year. So he didn't pee for 18 hours after drinking a whole gang of beers, and his bladder tore open.
I'm not comfortable with this story.
Yeah, this one might be a little. This one might make a little bit edgy, a little difficult. But who wants to try to pitch us an idea, pitch us a story based on this? Here, Kevin, you can sit out for a little bit until you can think of something.
I'll go. I don't mind. Unless you got one, Nick, I'll go.
Kind of. I mean, I'll just go real quick because it's not much, but I am just imagining a villain in the story who zip ties his victims, and that's it. That's all he does, and he tells them, "You can't remove the zip tie or else." And I don't know. I'm still kind of working on this here, but I'm gonna go ahead and throw my vote away this time.
What was the name of the guy whose bladder burst?
Mr. Hu.
Who? Yeah.
The guy whose bladder burst.
Mr. Hu.
Don't say it again.
No, his name was Mr.
No,
Hu.
the guy whose bladder.
Yeah, right, Mr. Hu.
Who?
All right.
Wow.
Mr. Hu. Mr.
This is a stalling tactic, everyone. He has nothing. He's got nothing.
Okay, I'll go.
Well,
let me get this out of the way.
All right,
So
said he
See
was
if you
up
can beat
there.
my idea.
I'm ready.
I didn't.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kevin.
No, I was gonna say I didn't even hear Nick's idea because I was too busy thinking up the Who joke.
It was really good, dude. It was like the best idea I've ever had.
Go ahead, RA. You're up.
Okay, so two things. First, if you've never listened to the Who, HU, the Mongolian rock star guys, do yourself a favor and check them out because they're really awesome. Okay, but back to the story. I think that we're dealing with a straight.
On the show now? Is that what just happened?
No. I paid. They paid me. They paid me. Hashtag sponsored post. Okay, so I think that we're dealing with a straight horror movie here, and that inside Mr. Who's house, many years ago, a young woman tragically drowned in the bathtub, and since she believes that she was killed, even though she wasn't, it's kind of a long story. Her spirit's never moved on, so she's haunting the space. And the thing is with poltergeists and with ghosts and things like that, it's not always easy to see them when you're in your correct frame of mind. It's often easier, when you're upset or you're angry or you've been drinking or taking hallucinogens or something to that effect. Well, Mr. Who had just enough to drink that he walked into the bathroom to use the restroom, and he was in the right headspace. He was basically at the right frequency where he could see the dead girl who inhabits the bathroom, and it scared him, right? And so he could not bring himself to go into the bathroom for the rest of the night. No matter what he did, he'd stand in the threshold, he'd look, he'd try to get his courage up to go to the restroom, and he just couldn't. And so he thought that the solution was to just drink more. If I drink more, this craziness will get out of my head, and eventually I can get in here and relieve my bladder. But obviously that didn't happen, and so he drank so much that he never overcame the fear of the ghost, and obviously passed out. And that's where his bladder issue came from. So,
if it was a J horror, the ghost would definitely come out of the toilet, right?
100%.
I don't know if you have the same tropes in Chinese horror. I don't know how that works. Okay, I think Kevin. So I don't know if Nick's turn counts. That's still TBD.
I'm going to short round this too. I think I'm just going to keep this pretty simple.
Okay.
I think our guy discovered that as long as his bladder is full, he has the ability to read thoughts, and he's gaining so much information from this that it's helping him in his life and career. And so he just keeps filling his bladder, refusing to go urinate, and then one day it just goes away. The burst bladder thing causes him to lose his newfound superpower.
All right.
It's one
Like
of
a
those
PP
ironic
psychic.
stories.
PP psychic. Very nice.
I didn't pick the story, okay?
I thought this would be fun, but you guys are not into it. So
I
Nick,
like
you
it,
gonna-
man. I like it.
No,
I like it.
mostly I just have to pee now. That's the problem.
Psychic, man. I'm all about it.
I'm
Nick,
very
you going to pitch again, or are
concerned.
you going to stand by your half-assed pitch from minutes ago?
I don't know what happened. It was like a space-time continuum thing. I had a whole story. Then you guys only just heard like a piece of it, but it was really good. So we can just go ahead and move on.
It was
Interesting.
It's definitely worth the votes.
I was exuberant about it.
Son of a bitch! I didn't use the
Okay, now we have a different kind of bonus round. Who can pitch me an intense thriller plot where the hero is 7 years old?
an intense thriller plot where the hero is 7 years old.
Yeah, a thriller story with a 7-year-old protagonist.
Okay. So a young, actually have a protagonist who's around that age, so I'm going to use him. So a young Alex Kotler, nephew to Dan Kotler, discovers that a local museum has been robbed of an ancient artifact, a sword that he then discovers is being kept by a neighbor, and he tries to retrieve the sword and get it back, and all hell breaks loose, and he has to go on the run and keep the sword out of the hands of the bad guys.
Nick and RA?
Yeah,
7-year-old thriller hero?
The protagonist is a chimney sweep in old school London, and what? That's where he is, man. Just leave it alone.
You went straight up Victorian.
Keep going.
Dixian on it.
What happens next?
Well, he's his job is just spent sweeping out chimneys and keeping them clean. Well, he discovers that the chimney is a really good residence chamber, and pretty much anything in this one particular mansion and that anyone says on that level, he can hear. And so he overhears a plot to assassinate the queen at the time, and he ends up saving her and embarks on this journey of becoming basically a tiny little spy. And he overhears all these things and eventually knows which houses to go to sell his services to, and be able to get in there to overhear stuff. And gets to the point where he doesn't even actually go as a chimney sweep anymore. He just sneaks in and jumps down people's chimneys to hear their plots. And so he goes around London and jumps in chimneys and listens to everybody on their secret assassinating plot attempts. And he's very exuberant about it.
The exuberant
that's
chimney
actually
sweep.
I think you should write that one.
It's kind of a fun one, right?
That's a good one.
RA, do you have something to pitch us for a 7-year-old thriller hero?
Yeah, I got something. So my story would take place at a school. Okay, and our hero's name is Exuberance Jones, and Exuberance has a favorite teacher, and the teacher has been speaking out against some of the growing criminal element in the school, and so eventually the teacher gets hauled away by the cops one day because they find a pound or so of cocaine in the teacher's car. And so Exuberance goes on a mission to find who framed her teacher and attempts to right the wrongs, and then kind of becomes like a little mini equalizer in the process. So
Mini Equalizer. That's a possible good episode title. The Mini Equalizer. Okay, so we have our last story. This is the last news item we're going to read for the day. So everybody gets one more pitch, one last chance to bring it home. This is called, Is That Goat Registered? Chris Hedstrom of Odessa, Florida, filed suit with her neighbor, Heather Daner, in late May. I see RA nodding at the mention of someone from Florida. There's pretty much...
Florida man.
I think it's got to make its way in every show, I think. So Chris Hedstrom filed suit against her neighbor Heather Daner in late May, demanding either a paternity test for the 5 goats she purchased from Daner or a full refund. Hedstrom bought the 5 Nigerian dwarf goats the previous December, paying $900 and expecting to register them with the American Dairy Goat Association. Registered goats have a higher value than non-registered goats, obviously. But the ADGA denied Hedstrom's application because Daner is not a member of the organization, and Daner now accuses Hedstrom of trespassing on her farm and harassing her with calls to the police. Dun dun dun. Who would like to be the first to pitch us a story about the registered goats?
Okay.
Hmm?
These, I'll go. I'll do it. I'm going to make this up on the fly, too, because I got no idea. So these goats are actually being used to transport microchips. Each of them is just stuffed full of microchips that contain all kinds of military secrets from all over the world, all the major governments. So the person, what's her name? Let's see, Heather Daner, was charged with smuggling these goats out of where they were and into Florida, where the only way to get them there was to sell them to this Hedstrom person, knowing that Hedstrom wouldn't be able to register the goats once he or she got them. And so now the goats are in the country and they're under dispute, and they're going to be harvested for the microchips so that they can be sold off to the highest bidder in the U.S.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin Tomlinson. Nick, you got something?
I got an amazing idea for a story. Okay. I'm quite exuberant about this idea. So
it's got to be better than microchips. It's got to be.
Well,
almost by default.
These goats were marked early on to be drug running goats. They were going to gut them and put drugs inside their empty, chest cavity, and then ship them across the border, or ship them across to Cuba, basically, where they'd be sold, since they're in Florida, right? And so they would be slaughtered, put on ice, and all that. Just imported goats, like we know Cuba gets all the time from Florida, and so these goats were full of drugs. And so when Heather, I think, sold the goats, they were earmarked for the American Dairy Goat Association, which actually down there to Heather goes by a much different name, the American Drug and Gang Association. And exactly, which is an organization, a criminal organization that's flown under the radar of getting drugs out of America and into other places through the use of dairy goats. It's a very common practice, and most people don't realize that the American Goat Association is actually the Drug and Gang Association. So that was her guise to get the goats, and when her neighbor didn't register them properly, then the American Drug and Gang Association had no idea that the goats were ready to go. And so Heather never got her fat paycheck because the goats just munched happily on the weeds and never actually got gutted and stuck full of drugs and sent to Cuba.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thacker.
That made her non-exuberant.
And that made her definitely not feel exuberant. All right, R.A., I think it's just you, so why don't you bring us home?
All right. So I think that the hero of the story is actually Heather, okay? And Heather has, kind of always done the right thing in her life and, didn't really have a lot of luck with men, Apparently there's not a lot of call for, like, goat selling women. I don't know. but
there's not.
I don't know. Allegedly.
Goat Mingle website?
Goat Mingle.
We should start that. Nick, can you code that? I know you're good with that stuff.
I just did, man. It's already done.
My man, dude. But eventually she finds a guy, okay? And the guy comes into the relationship with a little bit of baggage. When you get in your 30s and your 40s, God dang, I can't believe I missed that. That's hold on. I got to give that to Nick.
Would you say that joke was the greatest of all time?
It was pretty good.
Was it the goat?
No.
Oh.
I'm not gonna let you have two of them. I'm gonna let you have two of them.
All right,
Okay, you're a little exuberant over there. Calm down, Packer. So anyways, she meets a guy. He comes into a relationship with a little bit of baggage, and he says, I've got an ex. I've got a couple kids, but whatever. Well, it turns out that his ex is the head of the ADGA, okay? And she is mad at Heather for taking her man. And so she is now running a fiendish plot to ruin Heather and her goat selling business. And so the goats that she sold to Chris were Nigerian pygmy dwarf goats, but the head of the ADGA, the ex, won't let him register. And it's a systematic approach to destroy Heather. And that's, I think, what we're dealing with. So
I think that would have really, she would have been very pissed off.
yeah, I agree.
All right, Nick, if you got any more, just get them out of your system right now.
Get him out. Okay.
It's a little cheesy, but I think he'll be okay.
Goat cheesy.
Goat cheesy.
All right, everyone, that about does it for us. If you'll see down at the bottom, I'm scrolling all our websites, but actually, if you'll just go to storyonthespot.live, then that is the hub for all things Story on the Spot related. Thanks, R.A. McGee, Kevin Tomlinson, Nick Thacker, my pointing crew for coming and hanging out on the episode today. And thanks for watching.
It's like Michael, right?
Sorry, we're listening, Jim. Go ahead. Keep talking.
Jesus. Okay, so if you're
wait a minute, hold on. How do I do this?
If you're watching, remember you can comment below about which stories you like, or just you can suggest. I don't even know what's happening right now. I don't know what's happening. Okay, everyone, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Bye.